Women to Women. A pleasure to have you with us. Tonight we have a very special guest, and I want to get her name perfectly right, okay, because she's such a delight. Yaraseth Anaya Lugo.
Correct.
Okay.
Good job.
I welcome all of you, and we'd like to thank our sponsors, Carpa Nevada LLC, fine importers of fine Portuguese olive oils, balsamic vinegars, and international teas, as well as Vila Basque, home of Pete's famous Basque chorizo. So let's all welcome Yara, as she likes to be known. Thank you so much, Yara, for being here with us.
Thank you for inviting me.
You know, I'm so excited, Yara. Number one, you are my very first, probably bilingual, bicultural guest I've had on the show, which is a true pleasure.
That's a
because
pleasure.
for Carol, myself, having lived in different cultures, I feel like I have a simpatico here going on.
Oh,
Okay?
good.
Someone who understands my background too. So Yara, first of all, just introduce us to where you grew up. What are these bicultures that you share in? Where are you from?
Well, I am originally from Mexico. I was
Okay.
born and raised in Mexico. I am a U.S. citizen. I became a U.S. citizen a couple years ago, and I'm proud to be a national.
Thank you. High five on
I'm
that.
proud to be a U.S. citizen.
Oh.
I love my country. I
Yes,
love
of course you
my
do.
new country. I grew up in Mexico in a really small town close to Puerto Vallarta. So you can imagine the beauty,
Yes, yes,
the
yes.
beach, the people, the food. My
the ocean
mom,
side.
yes, the ocean side. I am one of 5 women and 1 brother. Poor man. My mother, a professional, a teacher. My dad's a mechanic, and so
Yes.
grew up with the greatest family ever. We are
Yes.
family oriented.
And you know, Yara, I've always noticed, without exception, that among the families of Mexico, Central America, South America, family tightness is absolutely predominant.
We were always told by our mothers, my mother, no matter how much you have, if you don't have family, you don't have anything. There's 5 women, like I mentioned, so, and 1 brother. My dad was always teased by my uncles, like, oh, well, you can't make boys, or you can't make boys. Now that we're all grown and
Yes.
married, we are very close to our father and our mother. So, now my dad turns around and says, I am so glad I had so many girls, because I am never alone.
Never.
And he's
never.
taken care of.
Yes,
So,
yes.
family is everything to us.
And it's demonstrated constantly in all of the families that I am in association with from wherever, Mexico, Central America, or South America. And I love it. I love it. It's so European and so Middle Eastern. I wanted to ask you, are your parents still living in Mexico, or are they now here in the United States as well?
Both of my parents are retired.
Okay.
My mother retired in Mexico, and my dad retired from here. So they go back and forth. They
All
come and
right.
visit.
All right.
But they could ever adjust to this new lifestyle, where you work on the clock and you got to go and come back, and they couldn't ever adjust.
Timing is a big difference, isn't it, between
Yes.
the United States and other countries? Perhaps Canada is as close as it gets to the timing of America. Other nations, I mean, when it's time to take the break for tea, the siesta,
Yeah.
nothing else
Yeah.
stops, gets in the way of
No.
it. They do it.
And I think for my parents was harder because they came here older. Their parents
Yes,
they
yes.
have their agendas different. And I always asked my mother, because I was 10 when I came, and what did I know? Why are we here? Why did we leave our uncles and cousins? And
Why did we leave the beach and the ocean?
Why are we here?
We're in the driest state in the country
Yes. And her answer was always because of education.
now.
Because I liked the education. She, being a teacher, came on
Yes.
vacation, liked the education, and she said, because I like it here for you guys.
Now,
So-
let me ask you, Yara, when you came here as a 10-year-old with your rest of your sisters, are you the youngest, the oldest, in between? What are the age levels of you and your
I'm the
brothers
second youngest.
Okay.
My oldest sister, she's 41,
and sisters? All right.
38,
Okay.
36, 30,
Yes.
32, the other one's 33, the other one's 26. My brother's 37. So we're all right after each other.
Yes,
Yeah,
okay.
there's no time. We all,
You all appeared on the
close,
scene
we're
rapidly.
close.
Yes, very much so. So I was going to ask you, okay, when you came here as a 10-year-old, what were some of the most amazing or difficult areas of life that you had to contend with? You had your brothers, you had a brother and your sister to come back to, but out there as a 10-year-old, what were your eyes and your mind taking in? What was so different?
Everything was different. Everything was drastically different.
How? Help us to understand
We
that.
came in December. It was snowing. I come from the coast, the Pacific coast. It was hot. I get put in a school where I don't speak the language.
That's right.
I'm 10, I'll pick it up quick, and that's all I heard. Oh, you'll get it quick. Which I think I did.
Yes.
But, you're still kind of missing the point. Like, what are we doing here?
Right. And it has to be befuddling for a 10-year-old or a 12-year-old, even 14-year-olds. You took us out of our native area where our relatives are, the food we love, the language we love, our playgrounds, our play areas. Why? And when was that question, when did it settle into your mind that education was what your mom was talking about? How long did it take to sink in?
It settled when I went to school. It settled when I graduated. It settles every day. I am assisting my older sister with taking care of her daughter. She has a sick child that she needs to take care of, so I'm helping her with her 7-year-old, 6 turning 7. And me wanting the best for her, I have no kids of my own yet. So me wanting the best for her, I can understand what my mom, she did what she did.
Yes.
Because I agree with her. There's nothing more important in life than education, especially with women. I truly believe that, yes, you can have a man that's going to support and provide, and that's great. And a man that not only supports economically, but it's going to be there to back you up and help you be the best you can be. I have one. Anybody can have one. There's good men out there. But God forbid something happens to him. God forbid something happens to my life. I need to be able to provide to myself and my children.
Yes, yes.
So education is the way to do it. I truly believe that's the way to do it.
All right. So, Yara, in this effort to promote education among your family members, among their children, etc., how do you get through? How does that message get through to them? How do you convince them? For example, we're all immigrants at some time or another, other than for perhaps the American Indian, and even they too had to cross the Bering Strait and eventually get down into here.
Yeah.
But I remember in my own family, I am now 4th generation here in the States. So I'm American like you are, grew up in the American educational system. But when I went overseas and introduced my son into the Persian school system and into the Persian culture, I know he was very young, younger than 10 years old, but I often got these confused looks from him that said, "Mommy, I miss home. I miss where I used to be." But as time goes by, they quickly adapt like a sponge. My question to you is, when I had to leave Iran because of the revolution, I had people saying, "Why would you go someplace else?" And the answer was, "For the future of my son. I cannot live in turbulence."
I believe that when you have children or when you feel the motherly love, because you don't have to have your own children to feel that motherly love.
That's right.
You will do whatever it takes for those kids. You did that for your child. My parents did that for me. A lot of immigrants are doing that for their own kids.
How do you convey, Yara, to, let's say, here in Carson City, to the Hispanic community? You and I believe very much in intermingling among cultures, conversations to take place, sharing of food, sharing of laughter, sharing of music. That's what makes us a family, a global family, and I always say, God's family. He wants us to get along. So how do you go about in your own family unit or in your own community? You're out and about. You're in Carson City all over. How do you share between Americans and the Hispanic communities the need to get together more often and to communicate more often together, to understand a nation's hopes and aspirations for its people? And its people are all of us are immigrants.
I believe that, I mean, the way I do it is I make friends. You really want to know what I'm all about? Get to know me. Because I am not like everybody else. Because you are not like everybody else. So I am not like every criminal immigrant that comes out on the paper.
Correct.
You know, you are
Correct.
not, you know, the white trash that we read about.
That's right.
So, you know, let's get to know each other. Let's really let me get to know you. You know, once we get to that, you're
Yes.
gonna like me.
Exactly.
You're gonna like me.
So what do we need to do to get to that?
I think we need to create more activities where our communities intermingle. I think as a community, we need to have activities for kids from different cultures to intermingle. I think we need to open the doors to getting to know the people that reside in Carson City.
Do you think it's fear that keeps us apart from doing that, from sharing those activities? What is it that keeps us from doing it on a regular basis?
I think it's lack of information. I think it's a little bit of ignorance. I think it's a little bit of fear. I think it's a little bit of everything. And I also think it's lack of leadership. I think that, you know, we don't have, or we have not stepped to the plate and said, okay, let's do this. Let's make it work. You know, you have a different background, I have a different background, he has a different background. Let's all get together and do something that we can bring more people.
All right, I think you've hit the nail on the head when you talk about any one of those points of interest. Let's take it. Let's take the leadership point. All right, you know that when you were a child, certain kids take the initiative to say, okay, we're going to play cowboys and Indians in my backyard. Then we'll go to yours. As a 10-year-old, you were probably, because this is your personality, you were already doing things that most 10-year-olds didn't do. You told me that you actually interviewed people at 10. What do you mean by that?
You know, you asked a great question. How difficult was it when you came into the States?
Yes.
It was very difficult, and I'll get to your last question. I remember going to school, and I had the best teacher ever, Mrs. Wilson. She lives in Carson. She's a great teacher, ESL teacher, English as a second language. I come into class, and it was like my second or third day, and this gringo, this white guy comes in, and I see everybody around him didn't speak Spanish, so he's telling everybody we're gonna meet after school at this place, right? And he's trying to talk to me, and I'm like, okay, you know, well, let me call my mom. You know, I am 10. So I pick up the phone from the same classroom, and I tell my mom, there's a gringo that wants me to go somewhere. And my mom's like, no, you're not going with any gringo. I'm like, Mom, but everybody's going. Then she ended up talking to the teacher, and she explained, it's an after-school program, blah, blah, blah. So I go with this gringo. This gringo, probation officer. I find out when I learn English, then I find out he's a probation officer.
Okay.
And I find out what that is. Okay, he deals with the bad kids, right? And I'm hanging out with him because, you know, probation officer hangs out with the bad kids. Bad kids have a probation officer. Good kids don't have a probation officer. So, you know, but I'm like, whatever. I don't have anything else to do. So he has this show called Hola Carson City.
Hola
Carson City.
Okay.
He gathered a bunch of Hispanic kids. He put them in front of a TV. His wife would train us. She would do our hair. She would read to us how, you know, we got to interview Senator Harry Reid. We got to interview, our political leaders.
Yes.
So, you know, I did that for a long time.
When you say a long time, 10 to 12 years of age or 10?
I was 10. I think I did it for about 12 to 15 years.
Oh.
Yeah, no, I did it a long time.
Yes.
Yes. And, you know, I did it because I enjoyed it. First, it was a commitment. You know, I feel bad. How am I going to say no to this gringo? You know, he would pick me up at my house. He would buy us pizza. Kids would do anything for pizza. Okay? So, you know, I got involved. Then I turned 15 and I had my quinceañera.
Which means to our listeners, some of them might not recognize that word.
It's like a sweet 16.
Yes.
You know, you have your big dress, your big party, you know.
Yes.
And
coming of age, coming out.
Yes, coming out, yes.
Debutante ball.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm ready to date. Bring it on. So my mom says, well, you know, we need to find a padrino, a godfather, somebody that can, you know, that can represent you at the church and you can look up to them.
Yes.
And I said, well, I want Ian. Ian and March, which was a gringo.
Okay.
Okay, they became my mentors. And they said yes right away.
Okay.
I don't think they had an idea what this involved. Okay, and I said, you only have to show up in church, sit next to me and just say yes. And they said yes.
Okay.
They took this job really serious.
And before we come back to how this was a pivotal point, okay, a turning in your life, you need to take a break, but don't anyone go anywhere. We'll be right back.
When a disaster strikes our region, will you be ready? Learn about sheltering in place. Since each emergency is different, make sure you plan for alternate routes away from your neighborhood. Plan meeting places and long-distance phone numbers if you are separated. Assemble food, water, medicines for at least 3 days, and a portable radio to stay informed. Remember, make a plan, assemble a kit, stay informed, be ready. For more information, contact your local emergency manager.
Welcome back to Women, and we have with us this evening Yaraseth, I want to get this right, Yaraseth Anaya Lugo. Very animated, interesting young woman who has a lot to say about immigration, who has a lot to say about relationships between cultures. So welcome back, Yara.
Thank you.
Yara, we had left off where a major turning point in your young life was the mentoring that you received when you were a new person here in America in those first few years, and that mentoring by Americans.
Yes, his name is Ian Curley. He works in Loudoun County.
Yes.
Was a probation officer here, and his wife March Curley. They became my godparents, and they took this job really serious. Mm-hmm. They took this job very serious, and I was like, "What did I do?" And my friends were like, "Oh yeah, now you think you're white,"
Yes.
But
they were jealous, maybe a little bit jealous of that
because
kind of attention and care.
There was a group of us that were
yes.
mentored by them, and we
Yes.
all went to college. We all got a degree. When I say they took it really serious, I mean it. They took me, when I graduated, they took me to a community college and they had me sign up. She did that. She took me to lunch and she's like, okay, now we're going to go to WNC and you're going to sign up for school.
Wow.
So I went to school, and honestly, looking back, I think I started going to school because I felt the pressure.
Expectation.
Yes. My parents always said,
Yes.
School's not an option. But with your parents, you can always rebel. My dad, you don't know what you're talking about. But with other people,
Yes, it's a different story.
it's a different story because you gotta meet their expectations.
And you had such respect for the mentoring that they were sharing with you, spending time with you, that it had worked its way into your spirit, into your soul,
It did.
I think. Yeah.
It did. The way they did things were different from our culture. I would come back home and I'm like, Mom, can't believe this. Ian does this.
Give us an example so we can understand what you're talking about there.
One time, I wanted to join the Air Force, or the military. I didn't know.
You were junior, senior in high school?
I was
at that-
graduating. I was going to
Okay.
graduate. And my mom always said, whatever you want, as long as you're doing something with your life. My dad, on the other hand, was like, ask your mother. Okay? So Ian said, Ian's from England, and he served the Air Force in England, I believe, and she served something here. But they're both military driven.
Okay.
So they say, okay, you need to come home. You can stay in my house for a whole week. We will study the book. There's a big book. I go to their home, and everything's very scheduled, very, everything's in its place.
Well, they're military to begin with, but there's that sense of organization
They're
within this culture.
very organized.
Yes, yes.
And okay, we would have dinner, then we would read. Then I could watch TV, and then we would read.
Okay.
And then, it was like, this is what we're here for, and this is what we're going to do.
Goals were important.
Yes. So I come home after a week, and they would drop me out at school. They would pick me up, And I come home after a week, and I said, what did you do? I studied. Their life is very structured. They have goals, and
Yes.
they have expectations.
Yes.
And they're very, very structured in comparison to my home, where,
life.
there's 7 other siblings. You're running around.
Yes,
Everybody
yes.
supports. There's
Yes.
chaos. And to me, that was like, maybe this is, and when I say white people, I don't mean in an offensive way.
Right.
Okay, I refer to white people in a very respectful way.
Yes, yes.
And I say, white people are different. White people are organized. White people are, very scheduled. They're scheduled their stuff.
And I would so love to have my husband Jose hear this, who's from Madrid, Spain, and said, it's impossible to live with a teacher. There are too many rules. But anyway, go ahead.
So, I learned a lot from them. I got my degree in political science, international affairs, and a minor in psychology.
You are one smart lady.
And it's because of me, because I wanted to be different.
Yes.
But at the end of everything, it's because they mentored me. It's because they had expectations and I could not let them down.
So let me ask you this. With this mentoring or this mentorship going on, did it affect you? Were you already married at that point or not? You were not, were you?
I was not married.
All right. So did that affect your choice of husbands in any way?
It
Did it place a framework around who that you might marry?
It affected my life because, like it or not, I made a decision. I would always think, would Ian approve this? Would March approve this? I knew that their expectations, my life decisions depended on, I was always looking at their acceptance because, to me, even to this day, I mean, they walked me down the aisle. They
Very
mean a
special.
lot to me. They mean a lot to my family.
They were truly your godparents, and they stepped in at times in your life often. And your parents trusted them
My
to do
parents
that.
love them.
So there has to be a really strong bonding between your parents and your godparents because they believed in you, loved you, and put you to the test often. They knew you were capable of it.
Yes, and for me, I always, again, I refer to this word. I always look at this as it takes a lot for a white couple to look and mentor and take this person. And there was a couple of us, again, take a couple of kids and mentor and spend your time and your energy and putting your heart out there.
But look where it has taken you, Yara, in the sense of Carson City. When I first talked with you, which was, a while back, you were all about community. I remember you saying, I'm all about Carson City and about the people here who live in it. Help us to understand what that means in your frame of reference. How are you all about Carson City?
I started, same thing, when he recruited me to do the TV show. The days we didn't do a TV show, we would go to this nonprofit, Nevada Hispanic Services. And we would sit there and welcome clients that had all kinds of problems, I did this construction work and they didn't pay me and, and we would help them, guide them through other, to other agencies that could help them. I started there when I was 10. I now sit on the board. I'm the president of, it was then Nevada Hispanic Services, is now known as United Latino Community. I believe that it's my time to give back. I'd like to help people find the right answers. We are not there to resolve your problems. We are there to help you find solutions. We are there to help other agencies, the city of Carson, communicate to our community. We are here. Many of us are here to stay. So we need to include our people and we need to teach them how to become citizens of Carson City. We need to include them.
Yes, yes. And your own life, Yara, is a statement in and by itself. You chose to remain in the United States. You chose citizenship. And those two statements of your personal behavior, of your personal steps, speak very loudly. Those are loud steps. Maybe they're quiet to you, but they resound to those who are seeking, okay, what is the best solution here to the situation I'm dealing with? Yara is trying to tell me, become a member of the community, become a member of the country. If you make a decision to stay here, welcome.
We need to assimilate.
Yes, we need to assimilate.
We as a Latino community, speaking from the people that I serve, we need to assimilate. We need to become one. We need to allow our kids to become one.
Yes, yes, because just as you learned through the mentorship of the couple that took you under their wings, you realized that you were being assimilated, but they were also being assimilated into your patterns, your family patterns, and look at the richness of what developed in family relationships. Now, here in Carson City, where do you see assimilation actually being projected, supported, encouraged? Where does it happen? Where do you see those positive signs occurring?
I believe it needs to start in the schools. I think we need to get parents, children intermingled with other kids, different cultures, and then we need to get the parents involved.
What if the parents, okay, this is from a teacher point of view, what if the parents say, my children will just assimilate, they will just learn the language, they'll learn English, and I'm not going to necessarily pay to have my children exposed to more and more English and more discussion, because I'd rather use that money to go back to Central America, South America, Mexico City, the beach. So how do you blend? How do you talk with parents to help them see that there's a balance, that if they want the security, the future of their children to be in this country, then that language exposure is so important?
I believe that
How do you help guide them?
our parents need to grow with their kids.
Okay.
You know, in our Latino community, unfortunately, we have situations where, okay, mijo, okay, talking to the kid, tell her that I need this payment to be done. There's no, you need to learn English. It's your responsibility to grow with your child.
Okay, and actually, our children are some of our best teachers.
Yes.
When I lived in another community, in another country of the world, it was my son who learned the language first and who was doing the things that his grandparents asked him to do in Turkish or in Farsi. And I said, how did he learn that? Where did that come from? He was teaching me, Mommy,
Yeah.
this is easy.
I can do this. And you're like, honey, if you can do it, I'm happy for you. I can't do it. You know, I believe, you know, we always come, and a lot of our immigrant members come and say, well, I'm only here for 5 years. I'm going to go back. 5 years later, 20 years later, your kids are grown here. Your kids are in school here. And their Spanish is not the best. And your English is not at all. How do you communicate?
Yes, appreciation for each other's culture, but making the effort as citizens of Carson City, of the state of Nevada, to use our common language, which is English in this country. I love your Spanish, but we're not living in a Spanish-speaking country. So here are conditions.
I love your Spanish. I love how you sound in Spanish. But if I don't speak Spanish, can we speak? Can we communicate? That's, you know, I'm not saying, and I'm not for losing your language.
Right.
No.
I agree on that.
I am for you're living in, you know, we're living here. Let's learn how to live like the others.
Yes.
Okay? Not to please anybody. For your own good, for your own family, your children speak this language.
Yes.
They listen to this music. They watch this, you know, this is what they live around.
And it's also a form, whether we like it or not, of survival. My husband, who came to this country 50-some years ago, has a strong Jewish New York accent. And his English sounds like it could have come out of Havana, little Jamaica. It comes from Brooklyn. It comes from upstate New York.
It's a mix of everything.
A mix of everything. But the fact is, he loved the country, and he simply wanted to be able to communicate. So whoever was willing to listen, or he could pick it up, that became his English. But it's been so effective. It's unique.
Yep.
But it gets him where he has to go.
We all have an accent as immigrants.
Yes.
There's no, you know, I have people that have told me, I don't understand what you're saying. Well, then let me try again. Okay? Because, I mean, you're not going to put me down. I'm here to stay. So if you don't understand, I can repeat it.
Yes.
You know, and I can try to soften out. I could try to speak slowly.
Well, you know, you are here to stay, and I'm so glad you came on our program to make that statement, because you're doing a lot, and I hope we have a time to have another program with you. Thank you, Yara. Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
thank you to our guest tonight for joining us. We'll see you next week. The brand new Facebook. Make sure you check it out. We're there. Good night.